The Dominion's council chamber was a cathedral of predators. Stone-like walls pulsed faintly with bioluminescent veins, casting shadows across rows of towering warlords. Each carried scars carved into their hides, trophies of prey worlds bled dry. At the center, Vorkan the Harvester stood before the holographic projection of Earth. Blue oceans, green continents, scars of human industry glimmering under orbiting satellites. A death world. One elder rasped, mandibles flexing. It swallows its own children. Firestorms, quakes, plagues, yet still they crawl from the ashes. They persist, another added with distaste. That is their only talent. Vorkan bared serrated fangs, claws tapping against the dais. Persistence means nothing when the apex descends. Humanity will join the list of broken prey. Their bones will hang in my hall. Murmurs of approval rumbled through the chamber. None challenged him. The Ver Dominion had not lost a hunt in 1,000 cycles. When Vorkan offered to lead a strike personally, it was accepted as certainty. The humans would fall. They always did. Far below that orbiting arrogance. Captain Elias Cade leaned over the hollow table in Earth Defense Command. The war room thrummed with low voices, the glow of tactical screens painting tired faces in blue light. Cade's uniform bore the dark gray of Terran Strategic Response, its collar stitched with a faded unit crest. Scars traced his jaw, the legacy of too many close calls. General Silva spoke flatly. Their fleet is small. They're not here to invade. Not yet. This is a test. Testing the herd before slaughter, Cade muttered. His eyes never left the red markers dropping through orbit. We've seen this play before. Silva nodded grimly. And every world that played it wrong is dust. The table fell silent. On screen, Earth's atmosphere swallowed the descending strike force, 10 bioships armored and glistening like scale beasts. Their burn lines streaked the night sky. Cade broke the silence. We don't match them ship for ship. We never have. So we don't fight them that way. We bleed them, make them doubt, make them fear. A younger officer shifted uneasily. Fear? These are apex predators, Captain. Cade's mouth twisted into something that wasn't quite a smile. Everything fears, Lieutenant. You just have to teach it how. Hours later, in the armored barracks below New Geneva, Cade's squad ran final checks. Weapons hummed under diagnostic scans. Drone packs snapped onto armor harnesses. The air smelled of ozone and oil. Sergeant Dima, broad-shouldered and perpetually scowling, looked up from his rifle. They'll be bigger, faster, nastier. How do we level that? Brains, Cade said, clipping a sidearm to his belt. And Earth. This planet's tried to kill us since before history. We learned to outthink it. Same rule applies. Private Osei, youngest of the squad, forced a chuckle. So we just treat them like another storm? Exactly, Cade said. A storm with claws. Dima grunted. Hell of a storm. Cade strapped his helmet on, visor folding down to display the incoming trajectory paths. He spoke through squad comms, voice steady. Remember this. They think we're prey. That's their weakness. Use it. Turn every corner, every shadow into teeth. Above the city, the first predator ship split open like a seed pod. From its belly dropped armored figures, each the size of 2 men. Weapons fused into their limbs. They landed in a shockwave of dust and fire. Civilians in the outskirts saw them descend and fled into bunkers. Some carried rifles, others nothing but knives. Fear was there, yes, but resignation was absent. Humanity had buried too many of its dead already. Inside his armored vehicle, Cade watched when the beast stalked across rubble with casual arrogance. It sniffed the air as though scenting easy prey. His squad waited in silence, the tension so sharp it could be cut. Then Cade spoke, voice low but steady. Mark targets. Do not engage until I say. Vorkan, meanwhile, descended with his warriors. He towered among them, carapace ridged, eyes burning gold. He looked upon Earth with open contempt. This world reeks of desperation. I smell prey hiding in holes. Let them cower. We will drag them into the light. One of his lieutenants gestured to the ruined city skyline. Fragile structures. They built dens, not fortresses. Fragile prey builds fragile walls, Vorkan replied. Break them. The hunt begins. His command spread like a pulse, and the predators fanned out into city. Cade's comm crackled with fresh intel. Predator squads moving through districts, tearing apart abandoned towers, searching for humans. His traps were already waiting. Dima, South Block. Trigger the collapse when they're inside. A few streets away, predators lumbered into a gutted skyscraper, their claws gouging steel. The ground shook, then gave way. Explosives buried in foundations, struts detonated, collapsing the building onto them in a roar of fire and dust. Screams, inhuman, furious, ripped through the smoke. Contact down, Dima reported, his grim satisfaction audible. Cade allowed himself a single nod. One lesson delivered. But the predators were quick to adapt. Surveillance drones captured their regrouping. Vorkan himself watching the ruins with narrowed eyes. His voice cut through predator comms. Do not underestimate them. This prey has teeth. All the better. Teeth make finer trophies. His warriors hissed agreement. They were predators. This was just a spirited hunt. Cade, listening from intercepted feeds, turned to his squad. They'll push harder now. Good. The harder they push, the more they bleed. Night fell. Across the battered city, humans prepared their ambushes. Families huddled in bunkers. Soldiers crouched in shadows with rifles steady. The predators advanced, hunting with confidence born of 1,000 victories. Cade checked his rifle one last time. His squad crouched beside him in the shattered remains of a transit station, the air thick with dust. Captain, Osei whispered, voice tight, you think anyone else out there believes we can win this? Cade looked at the firelit horizon where predator silhouettes moved like giants. He remembered the history lessons etched into his bones. Ice ages, famines, wars, plagues. Every time, humanity had been pronounced finished. Every time they had stood back up. We don't need them to believe, Cade said. We just need the predators to learn fear. The squad held their silence, the words settling like iron. Above, predator ships loomed over the city, raining searchlights down on the ruins. The hunt was on. Cade's visor pulsed with enemy readings. He steadied his breath, his finger hovering over the trigger for the first ambush. They came here expecting prey, he said, voice hard as steel. Let's show them Earth only breeds predators. The signal pulsed. Mines armed. Drones surged from the rubble. The city roared alive with fire. The hunt had begun. The jungle breathed in heavy silence, a wall of heat and shadow stretching endlessly. Rain dripped from broad leaves, the air thick with the musk of life. Here, predators had ruled long, before humanity. Jaguars, anacondas, venomous spiders, all had carved their place in the hierarchy. Yet even they fell quiet as the newcomers arrived. The Vare strike team moved through the foliage like armored nightmares. Each warrior stood 3 meters tall, claws extended, mandibles flexing in anticipation. Their organic plating glistened with moisture, their senses tuned to pick out the faintest tremor of life. This world hides its prey well, hissed one, scanning the canopy. Vorkin strode at the front, spear-like weapon slung across his back, his bulk cutting through undergrowth as though the jungle bent to his will. Patience, he growled. Prey always reveals itself. He raised a claw, halting his pack. Ahead, faint human footprints pressed into wet soil, weaving toward the river. The scent of sweat lingered. Fresh, Vorkan's mandibles parted in a grin. They flee. His warriors hissed approval. They followed the trail deeper into the green. On the ridge above, Captain Cade crouched with his squad, their camouflaged armor blending seamlessly with the jungle's palette. Sweat beaded down his neck, but his breath stayed calm. The predators were where he wanted them. Targets moving into Zone 3, whispered Dima, sighting down his rifle. Cade's visor track heat signatures lumbering through brush. Hold fire, he ordered. They need to commit first. Below, the Vare pressed forward, completely unaware of the thin monofilament line stretched across the trail. The first warrior's armored leg caught one. A split second later, the jungle exploded. Charges buried in mud detonated, launching sharpened stakes upward like a storm of spears. The front predator was impaled through its chest. It roared, thrashing, ichor spraying. The others staggered back in shock as drones hidden in treetops opened fire, shredding armor with rail slugs. Contact! Osei shouted, unleashing a burst. The jungle became chaos. Gunfire cracking, alien shrieks splitting the humid air. Vorkan reacted instantly. He seized a dying warrior, tearing the stakes from his flesh, and hurled the corpse aside. Circle them. Smoke them out. The Vare released canisters of acrid mist, flooding the clearing with choking clouds. Visibility collapsed. Human visors flickered with interference. Gas! Dima coughed, voice strained. Switch to thermal. Cade snapped. He toggled his own display, the jungle becoming a world of glowing silhouettes. He fired into the haze, dropping one predator as it lunged forward. But the Vare were relentless. A warrior slammed into a human drone nest, ripping the machinery apart with bare claws. Another leapt across the clearing, its massive frame crashing into Osei's cover. The young private rolled aside just in time, firing upward. The rail slugs hammered into alien plating, cracking it open. Black ichor spilled. The beast collapsed with thunderous crash, but Osei's breath came fast and ragged. Still breathing? Cade asked through comms. Barely, Osei panted. But yeah, I'm good. Good. Stay that way. Minutes stretched into brutal exchanges. The jungle shook with detonations, trees splintering, soil churned into mud by blood and fire. The ambush was working, but it was costly. Two of Cade's drones were gone and ammunition was burning fast. Cade signaled retreat toward fallback lines. Disengage on my mark. We've done our damage here. The squad moved in coordinated bursts, vanishing deeper into the jungle. Behind them, the Vare regrouped around their fallen. Vorkin knelt by the corpse of his warrior, claws tracing the cracked armor. He stared at the crude spear trap, the scorched remains of drones, the precision bullet wounds. His mandibles twitched in irritation. Prey should scatter, he growled. These do not scatter. They choose the ground. They force us into their teeth. One lieutenant hissed, they fight like hunters. Vorkin rose to his full towering height, rage simmering. Then we will break them like hunters who forgot their place. Back at the human encampment, nestled within a natural cavern, Cade's squad reloaded and treated wounds under the dim glow of portable lamps. The air was heavy with the copper tang of alien blood. Sergeant Dima spat into the dirt. Never thought I'd see one of those bastards fall to jungle traps. Almost poetic. Don't get romantic, Cade said, though his tone carried a spark of grim satisfaction. Poetry doesn't keep us alive. Planning does. Osei leaned back, wiping sweat from his brow. Captain, this was just one skirmish. They'll adapt. Cade met his gaze steadily. Of course they will. And we'll adapt faster. That's what we do. He turned to the rest. The point isn't to win a single fight. It's to make them question every step they take. If they think a leaf could be a mine, if a shadow feels like a sniper, then we've already won half the war. Dima's scowl softened. Fear. You're betting on fear. I'm not betting, Cade said. I'm counting on it. News of the clash spread quickly. Across Earth's networks, encrypted broadcasts showed images of a slain predator sprawled in jungle mud, its imposing bulk reduced to another corpse. The footage sparked a wave of defiance. In underground shelters, families watched with wide eyes. A father in New Geneva gripped his daughter's shoulder. See that? They bleed. In a rural outpost, farmers armed with rifles whispered the same word again and again. Bleed. Humanity had found its rallying cry. High above, aboard the command ship, Dominion officers replayed combat feeds with disbelief. One turned to Vorkan cautiously. Losses are unusual. Should we call reinforcements? Vorkan's claws raked across the console, sparks flying. No, this is a test. And tests are not abandoned because prey bites back. He leaned close to the hollow map, mandibles clicking. We will drown their spirit. Tomorrow we strike their cities. His voice was cold certainty. Yet in the silence after, a single thought gnawed at him. A thought he refused to speak aloud. Prey was never supposed to fight like this. Cade stood outside the cavern, staring at the stars between jungle canopies. The enemy ships glowed faintly in orbit, silent predators waiting for their chance. He remembered the faces of civilians who'd watched from bunkers, the weight of every life depending on decisions he hadn't yet made. His jaw tightened. They wanted a hunt, he whispered to himself. Fine, let's give them a hunt they'll never forget. Behind him, his squad slept in shifts, weapons within reach, dreams restless. The jungle, scarred by fire and blood, settled into uneasy quiet. Tomorrow it would burn again. Night fell over New Geneva like a funeral shroud. Broken towers jutted from the skyline, their glass teeth reflecting faint starlight. The streets lay hushed, littered with the wreckage of vehicles and abandoned markets. Generators hummed in basements, their glow hidden behind blackout curtains. Civilians clung to silence, knowing sound drew predators. Above the city, shadows rippled as Vare dropships descended. Their hulls split open, releasing armor hunters onto rooftops and boulevards. They moved with cruel efficiency, scanning alleys and intersections with glowing optics. Vorkin strode at their head, spear weapon gleaming with harvested energy. No more forests, he growled. Tonight, their shelters burn. Captain Elias Cade crouched in the shadow of a gutted tram station, visor mapping predator movements across the grid. His squad was spread through choke points they'd studied for weeks. Contacts in Sector 6, whispered Dima from a sniper nest. Cade marked the map. Copy. Wait for my signal. His eyes flicked across the cityscape, dark bridges, broken rail lines, half-collapsed towers. Every ruin was a weapon waiting to be triggered. Humanity's survival lay in turning the familiar terrain of their dead cities into labyrinths of death. A child's laughter echoed faintly from a distant bunker. Cade's jaw tightened. These people trusted him. He couldn't let tonight be their last. The Vare advanced through Market Square, claws scraping stone. Their leader sniffed the air. Prey hides here. A step forward triggered a buried sensor. Suddenly, massive billboards lining the street flickered to life, blasting bright advertisements into the night. Recorded voices shouting in cheerful tones. The predators spun in confusion. Then the buildings erupted. Remote charges brought entire facades crashing down, burying the square under rubble and dust. Human rifles cracked from hidden vantage points, cutting down exposed hunters. Osei's voice rang over comms. Square is collapsing. Drop 3 hostiles. Pull back before they triangulate. Cade ordered. The squad slipped through maintenance tunnels beneath the streets. Above, the Predators clawed free of wreckage, furious but slowed. Vorkin rose from the dust, plating scratched but unbroken. He surveyed the ruin, mandibles clicking in irritation. They twist their own dens into traps. One warrior snarled. They scatter like vermin. Vorkan silenced him with a glare. Not vermin. Strategists. Do not mistake the bite of a rat for weakness. He activated his wrist beacon, flushed them with fire. Moments later, aerial drones rained incendiaries across New Geneva. Flames surged through abandoned districts, consuming timber and steel alike. Entire blocks became infernos. From their underground vantage, the humans felt the heat above. Dust rained from the ceiling as fire roared through the streets. Osei cursed under his breath. They're torching the whole sector. Cade steadied his voice. Then they'll believe we're trapped. Let them think it. He keyed his comm. Dima, are you in position? A calm reply. Window clear. I've got eyes on their command unit. Cade exhaled. Take the shot. High above, Dima lay prone inside the charred skeleton of an office tower, his rifle locked onto Vorkan's massive frame. Through the scope, the Predator leader loomed in a glow of fire, his warriors encircling him. Dima squeezed the trigger. The rail slug shrieked through the night and struck Vorkin square in the chest. The alien staggered, plating cracked, ichor spraying. The square erupted with enraged howls. Dima whispered, target hit. But Vorkin did not fall. He ripped the slug from his armor and roared, a sound that rattled glass for blocks. His gaze snapped upward. With terrifying precision, he hurled his spear. The weapon tore through air and stone, collapsing Dima's perch in a shower of debris. Dima, Osei shouted. Static filled the channel. Cade's stomach clenched. He forced himself steady. We keep moving. He knew the risk. His voice hardened. We don't waste a sacrifice. The squad pressed deeper into the tunnels, guided by flickering lamps and the echo of distant firestorms. Civilians huddled in side chambers, faces pale. A woman clutched Cade's sleeve as he passed. They'll find us, won't they? She whispered. Cade paused, meeting her frightened eyes. Not tonight, he said firmly. Stay silent. Stay hidden. We'll buy you time. He moved on before doubt could linger. Above ground, Vorkin paced through burning streets, chest still seeping dark fluid. His warriors hovered close, uncertain. Prey's claws draw blood, one muttered. Vorkan's mandibles curled into a grin, jagged and cruel. Good. Let them believe victory is possible. The deeper their hope, the sweeter its ruin. Yet behind the grin, a shadow gnawed at him. The slug had pierced where no Prey's weapon should. These humans had tools, tactics, an evolution of resistance unlike any he had faced. He buried the thought with rage. He could not afford hesitation. Cade led his squad back to the surface through a concealed hatch near the riverfront. The city glowed behind them, half of New Geneva engulfed in fire. Command will want extraction soon, Osei muttered, watching the flames. Cade shook his head. No, not until they bleed more. We make the city their grave, even if it means staying in it. The squad exchanged looks, tired, scorched, but resolute. No one argued. Cade stared at the distant silhouette of Vorkan standing amidst flames. For a moment, their eyes seemed to lock across the ruined cityscape. Predator and prey, hunter and hunted. The captain's voice was barely more than a whisper, but every syllable burned with promise. You came here to hunt. You'll leave here knowing we would never prey. The fires of New Geneva smoldered for days. Columns of smoke curled into the sky, visible for miles. Where the city once hummed with trade and chatter, silence reigned, broken only by the low growl of predator patrols combing rubble for survivors. Yet beneath the charred streets, the humans endured. Captain Elias Cade leaned over a flickering hollow map projected in the damp confines of the underground command post. His squad gathered close, the stale air heavy with sweat and exhaustion. They've shifted patterns, Cade said, tapping red markers onto the map. Vorkan spreading them thinner. Smaller hunting packs, wider nets. Osei frowned. Means he's learning. Or guessing, Dima replied. His voice was hoarse, his arm bandaged from the collapse. He had survived, barely, and now carried himself a mix of pain and stubbornness. Cade's eyes swept the squad. He wants us to come out. He'll burn every street until we choke on smoke. So we won't give him streets. We'll give him nightmares. Hours later, the predators moved through a ruined district, their claws scraping asphalt, mandibles flexing. They scanned alleys, their optics casting pale light over shattered storefronts. Then came the whispers. Faint, human. Words and broken tones drifting from abandoned radios, speakers wired through rubble. The hunters froze, straining to locate the source. Behind you, the voice hissed. One warrior spun just as a steel cable whipped around its neck. With a violent yank, the beast was dragged into the shadows. A muffled roar, then silence. The others backed into a defensive circle. From above, a flare burst, casting the street in red light. Painted on a crumbling wall was a crude symbol, a human skull biting into alien plating. "They taunt us," one predator snarled. The ground beneath them gave way, an old metro tunnel rigged with explosives. The blast consumed half the pack, hurling their broken bodies into darkness. The survivors scrambled from the flames, but everywhere the whispers followed. From vents, from radios, from echoing pipes. "You bleed, you bleed, you bleed." Deep in the tunnels, Osei switched off his transmitter, grinning despite his fatigue. "They bought it." "Of course they did," Cade replied. "They're hunters, not soldiers. They don't understand war isn't teeth and claws. It's doubt." Dima exhaled slowly. "You're making them see shadows even when we're not there." Cade's eyes hardened. "Exactly. Every shadow is us. Every sound is a bullet. They don't hear until it's too late." Vorkin studied the aftermath from a scorched rooftop. His warriors dragged charred remains from collapsed tunnel, their movements tense. He could smell their unease, the creeping hesitation in every step. He slammed a clawed fist against a steel beam, bending it in fury. Prey does not dictate the hunt. One lieutenant knelt, head bowed. Yet they do. They choose the ground. They choose the moment. They are not prey. Vorkan's mandibles bared in a snarl. He silenced the lieutenant with a backhand that cracked bone. But the words lingered. Not prey. For the first time in decades, he felt the taste of something unfamiliar, bitter, corrosive. Fear. Meanwhile, Cade's tactics spread beyond New Geneva. Across Earth, resistance cells adopted the same psychological warfare. Hunters found murals daubed on walls, human faces grinning through alien blood. They found crude effigies of their kind hanging from lampposts. Recordings of screams echoed through abandoned neighborhoods, sometimes staged, sometimes real. The Dominion had come to terrify. Instead, they were the ones haunted. In bunkers, civilians heard report of alien squads ambushed and routed. Hope blossomed like wildfire. A boy clutched his mother's hand and whispered, "They're afraid of us." For the first time, she smiled. One night, while smoke still drifted over the city, Osei and Kate scouted the upper levels of a ruined hospital. The wind carried the stench of charred alien flesh. Osei leaned against the broken window frame. "Never thought I'd see them rattled. They look invincible. Then one tripwire later, they're bleeding like anything else." Kay didn't answer immediately. He stared at the burning horizon. That's the thing about apex predators. They've never had to doubt. Once they taste it, they unravel. Osei chuckled, though the sound was weary. "Guess we're giving them their first lesson." Cade's jaw tightened. "And their last." Vorkan could not sleep. In the gutted cathedral he had claimed as a command post, he paced under shattered stained glass. His chest still ached where the rail slug had pierced. He replayed the ambushes, the voices in the dark, the faces of humans who should have cowered yet struck with precision. He whispered to himself, as though voicing the words might break their power. "They are prey, nothing more." But the cathedral seemed to answer with hollow echoes. Not prey, hunters. He drove his spear into the stone floor, sparks flaring. Rage steadied him, but doubt lingered like rot. Back underground, Cade addressed his squad. Their gear was battered, eyes sunken, yet each carried a spark of grim resolve. "They came here expecting a harvest," Cade said. "Instead, they're bleeding out one by one. Every trap, every whisper, every mural. They cut deeper than bullets, because predators don't know how to fight fear, not when it's their own." Dima smirked faintly. "So we turn their strength against them, let them choke on it." Cade nodded. "And when Vorkin finally realizes he's the one being hunted, that's when we finish this." The war in New Geneva was no longer about firepower. It was about the psyche. Humans, fragile and desperate, had become the phantoms of the city. Every street was a snare, every ruin a sniper's nest, every silence a threat. For the first time, the Ver hesitated to enter the dark. And for the first time, humanity knew they could win. The cathedral burned. Flames licked shattered arches, throwing jagged shadows across the ruined nave. Alien banners once hung in triumph. Now they smoldered, curling into ash. At the center, Vorkan stood alone, his armor fractured, mandibles slick with dark ichor. His war band was gone, buried under rubble, drowned in rivers, cut down by whispers and shadows. But he remained. Vorkin tightened his grip on his spear, its energy core sputtering. He had not come to Earth to flee. If his name was to echo across the Dominion, it would not be as a coward. Boots crunched on broken glass. Captain Elias Cade stepped through cathedral doors, rifle raised, visor glowing faintly in the smoke. Behind him, his squad formed perimeter, weapons steady. Vorkan's voice rumbled low, guttural. So, the Phantom steps into the light. Cade's tone was calm, but iron-hard. No phantoms. Just men who refused to die quietly. Vorkan roared and hurled his spear. The weapon screamed across the nave. Cade dove aside as it shattered a stone pillar, spraying dust and flame. His squad opened fire, rail slugs tearing into the alien's plating. Vorkan staggered but surged forward with terrifying momentum, ripping pews aside like twigs. Focus fire. Cade barked. Rounds hammered into Vorkan. Icor sprang, yet still he came, claws swiping. One strike clipped Osei, flinging him into a wall. He crumpled, groaning. Dima snarled, unleashing a sustained burst. Stay down, you bastard. The round shattered Vorkan's shoulder. He bellowed in pain but kept charging, seizing a broken beam as a makeshift weapon. He swung with enough force to snap benches in two, forcing the squad to scatter. Cade rolled behind a fallen statue, heart pounding. Vorkan wasn't simply fighting. He was refusing extinction. And extinction was exactly what Cade had promised him. Draw him to the center. Cade ordered, crawling through dust. Now! Dima lobbed a flash charge. The device exploded midair, bathing the cathedral in white light. Blinded, Vorkan thrashed wildly. The squad poured fire into his torso, pushing him back toward the collapsed altar. Cade sprinted forward, rifle in one hand, combat blade drawn in the other. He vaulted rubble, driving the blade deep into Vorkan's cracked plating. The predator howled, claws raking across Cade's chest armor. Sparks spraying. Pain flared through Cade's ribs, but he held on, twisting the blade deeper. You want to hunt? Cade growled through clenched teeth. You found one. With a violent swing, Vorkan hurled Cade across the nave. The captain slammed into stone, his vision sparking white. His rifle skittered away, useless. The predator staggered toward him, each step heavy, ichor dripping. His mandibles curled into something almost like a grin. Strong prey, he rasped, but still prey. Cade forced himself upright, breath ragged. Then why are you the last one standing? The words struck deeper than any blade. Vorkan froze, chest heaving. Around him, flames crackled, reflecting off the bodies of his fallen warriors. Alone, surrounded, the last of his kind on this cursed world. His mandibles twitched, but no words came. That hesitation was enough. Dima fired a final burst, slugs piercing Vorkan's side. The predator stumbled. Osei, battered but conscious, hurled a charge at his feet. The explosion rocked the nave, throwing Vorkan to his knees. Cade rose, clutching his blade once more. He advanced slowly, every step deliberate. Vorkan lifted his head, mandibles clicking weakly. Finish it, he rasped. Cade stood over him, chest heaving. No, you're going to finish it. He gestured to the open cathedral doors, where night stretched beyond the city. You'll crawl back to your dominion, and tell them what happened here. Tell them humanity is not prey. Tell them we made predators bleed. Vorkan's eyes burned with hatred, shame, and something darker, acknowledgement. Cade pressed the blade against his throat, not cutting, just close enough to drive the point home. Leave. Carry the story. But if you ever return, you won't. The predator rose unsteadily, clutching his wounds. He staggered past the humans, each step echoing with failure. At the threshold, he paused, glancing back at Cade one last time. His voice was barely audible, raw and broken. They will not believe me. Cade's reply was a whisper of steel. They will when they see you're the only one who came back. Vorkan limped into the night, vanishing into smoke and ruin. Silence fell over the cathedral, broken only by the crackle of flames. The squad exhaled in unison, exhaustion heavy in their bones. Osei leaned against a pillar, coughing. You let him go. Cade retrieved his rifle, sliding it onto his shoulder. No, I sent him home. He's worth more alive than dead. His story will do what our bullets can't. Dima spat blood onto the floor, shaking his head. You think the Dominion will listen? They'll listen, Cade said, his eyes fixed on the burning horizon, because fear spreads faster than fire. Weeks later, far beyond Earth, a lone Vaer transport drifted into Dominion space. Its hull was scorched, its pilot broken. The war councils assembled, expecting tales of conquest. Instead, they heard silence. Vorkan stood before them, scarred and trembling. He spoke only one sentence, voice hollow. Earth is not prey. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Apex predators who had never doubted their supremacy shifted uneasily. One broken survivor told a story more powerful than fleets. And somewhere in the vast dark, humanity prepared for the wars yet to come. No longer the hunted, but hunters in their own right. In the ruins of New Geneva, Cade stood on a rooftop, watching dawn break over scorched stone. Smoke still lingered, but the first rays of sunlight cut through, painting the city gold. Civilians emerged from bunkers, blinking into daylight, alive. Against all odds alive. Dima joined him, silent for a while. Then, think he'll come back? Cade's gaze stayed fixed on the horizon. If he does, he won't come with an army. He'll come with a warning. He turned his squad, battered yet unbroken. The galaxy thinks we're fragile. They'll learn the truth soon enough. The wind carried a faint echo of humanity's new creed, whispered in bunkers, carved into walls, burned into memory. We are not prey.